Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, madam. Good afternoon, madam.
Good afternoon to all the students. And I welcome you all for today's session. Hello, am I audible to you all?
Yes, madam.
Good afternoon, madam.
Good afternoon. How are you? Yeah, Rahul. Yes. What happened? You people were talking about creating a WhatsApp group and all that. Did you do that?
No, madam.
Yes, ma'am.
So you have done that, and you please take details and you can have that group, right? Okay, yeah. So good afternoon. Yes, that's really very nice. Okay, in our last class, we were talking about various concepts which we use in sociology, right? Have you tried to go through the material which was given to you?
Yes, madam.
Yes. Any doubts? Are you able to understand clearly? Okay, once again.
Madam, sound is not clear.
Beg pardon, my sound is not clear. Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Now? Is it okay? Hello?
Madam, I have a doubt, madam.
Mm-hmm. Tell me, ma. Tell me your name and tell me.
My name is Sharrani, madam.
Okay.
Human society, functional human society. Yes. That is the problem.
Human society means society or group of people, right? When we talk about function, because all human societies, of course, they will have specific culture. Each area, geographically or socially, culturally, they are diverse, right? We know this diversity. Whatever we are doing, we'll be doing according to the culture in which we are trained or the culture which we have learned, being a member in that particular society. That is the reason why we use that word functional individual. Because I think you might have come across feral cases, one word is there. If human beings are not living along with human beings, then they will not be able to learn anything what we are doing. Some cases are there. For instance, wolf children. When those children were very small, it so happened in an accident, they lost their parents, and these children were looked after by some wolves, two girl children. The elder one was somewhere around 7 to 8 years old, and the younger one 2 years younger than that. After some time, after a few, let us say, months, some villagers have found them, and they brought them to their village. Those children were eating food just like wolves. They were not able to talk at all. I think a boy or girl who is in a human society, by 7 years, means obviously they'll be able to talk and do various activities and all that. It could not happen because they were looked after by the wolves. Similarly, one more case also is there. Kaspar Hauser. He's from Germany, and somehow he was not having any contact with human society. When he was somewhere around 17 years old, so he entered into a village city like Nuremberg, and he was not able to do anything what that particular age group people do. So there are such cases. These cases are known as feral cases. So these individuals are not functional individuals. A functional individual is that person who can work according to the various aspects of culture in which he was brought up. So that's about, let us say, functionality of a society.
Okay, ma'am.
Good afternoon. Yeah, many students are there. Sheikh Sadia, right? Did I pronounce it correctly?
Yes, ma'am. Samia.
Right. Yeah, Sadia. Okay, that's really very nice. Okay. Oh, okay. Come on, let's go to our, good afternoon. Yes.
Good afternoon.
And today it is really very nice. I could see many students here. We are having more than 20. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
We are having 36 students in our class. I'm really very happy. And I hope the number will increase because there are many students who took admission in BA Sociology. Right? Let's go to the next this thing. Those who are having books, you can refer page number 64. In our last session, we discussed about certain concepts like society, community, institution. I think you remember it, right? Society, where we'll be referring group of people. Society means people living all over the world. Community, where we talk about physical proximity or locality and having community sentiment among the people because they are living at a particular place. Similarly, we also talked about association, which we ourselves organize, establish in order to fulfill certain common interests or common needs. We discussed about an institution where we utilize various services of these institutions and we create them. We talked about basic institutions like family or economic institutions or political institutions, etc. We also had some idea about how a particular common interest creates an institution and how institutions run more or less on permanent basis. Because without institutions, we cannot fulfill our needs, our desires and all that. These four basic concepts talk about society and its nature, society and how it looks, society and how we should understand it, right? Let us proceed to the next unit. Society is a group of people. Now we remember that very clearly, vividly, right? How do we live in a society? This is really a tricky question. We cannot say any institutions because they are abstract, but we can be a member in those institutions. Say, for instance, if I ask you people to say something about your family, you'll be saying, I am so and so. I mean, I am having siblings. And in the list of siblings, my number is first or second or third or whatever it is. We usually say my parents or my grandparents from mother's side as well as father's side. Like that, you'll be saying some information about family. Family is an institution. In our last session, we discussed it as an institution. But at the same time, if you want to have a concrete form, then you can have family as a concrete phenomenon only as a group. Similarly, who are your friends? Then you will be narrating some details. These are all my friends. These are all my co-workers or colleagues or my neighbors, etc. Here, what is it you are referring? Different groups you are referring. Your neighbors, maybe your friends at the same time, your classmates or busmates, or your economic activities colleague. But all your classmates are not your neighbors. You usually distinguish your neighbors from your other classmates, don't you? That means what you are doing is you are describing certain groups. So if you want to see a society, my simplest answer is you can do so by observing different groups. Is it a little bit tricky? I don't think so. Yeah, I mean, many people said, wish to me. So once again, I'm wishing you all. Good afternoon to you all. And here, student is asking for which topic and the page number. You please go to unit 5 and page number is, of course, 63 it starts, but I'll be talking about definitions, etc. So you please go to page number 64, right? Good afternoon. And one student is asking, Srilata, Telugulo cheppandi. For Telugu medium, you are having a separate class, ma. You can join there if you want to have only Telugu, because it is meant for only English medium, right? Manogna, thank you. At that time when I saw it was only 32, that is the reason I said many people. It is 36, and now the number has gone up more than 30 students. And here, Rahul, you are giving chart this thing, but once again, you please have your, let's say, you probably you are having some kind of group activities and all. Then it is better to share this group, okay, group information and all that, right? Now let me go back, and Manogram, once again I would like to share it with you. 42 students are there. Okay, let me go back to the definitions part of social group. How do we define a social group? What is it? I think you remember yesterday we were using George Simmel, monad, dyad, triad, and group. Do you remember that these words? Yesterday we discussed about them. If only one person is there, that is monad. 2 persons are there, that is dyad. 3, triad. More than 3, it is a group. If let us say lakhs of people are there or crores of people are there, then we have certain other words also. For instance, mass, mob, even these words also we have. But mostly these words are used in social psychology under the subjects than in sociology. The reason is the interactions which we develop. The depth of these interactions will not be much deeper if you take mass or mob into consideration compared to group, or let us say small groups and all. What is a group? Many sociologists have given definitions for a group. I'm referring your book only. Let me read out one definition, right? If you are having book, you please see. One of the comprehensive definition I would like to read it out. That is given by Bogardes. Bogardes, M-O-R-E-S, Bogardes defines social group as, you can jot down these points as characteristics of group. The first and foremost one is number of persons. In any group, there must be more than 2 persons or more than 1 person, if not 2. Second characteristic is they should have certain common objects of attention. Third is they must be stimulating to each other. They must have common loyalty, and they should also participate in similar activities. Why I have taken Bogardes' definition is it enlists the characteristics of social group. That is one of the reasons why I have taken Bogardes' this thing. Let me once again go back to the characteristics part. Now, group, in a simplest way, in order to understand, group is nothing but many people will be there as members of that group. They all will be having certain interests to be completed or discharged, certain duties. They will be participating in all group activities. And each member in a group is a stimulus to other member. Let me take a simplest example. Let us say your family or my family as an example. What do we do in our families? Usually each one will be a stimulus. I think after the class, if you are living with your parents, then what do? Immediately you will discuss about the class or your friends and what has happened, how you took the class, what your feelings and all those things you'll be sharing with your family members. That may be any person, your sibling, your brother or sister or father or mother. I mean, it depends upon. In turn, what will they be doing? You please imagine a situation when you are talking about your class, to your mother. If your mother refuses to listen, then how do you understand that? Usually I feel that mama is not at all giving any importance to me. Or mama is very busy. Or mama is angry with me. So like that umpteen number of feelings you will be having. Why this? Because you were saying to your mother and your mother listening. you both are stimulus response to each other. In any group, this should be there. It's not. If it is not there, then it cannot be considered as a group. Then what other characteristics we can say for a group? Let us have a glance at it. One major aspect in any group is among the members, there should be some kind of interaction. I know you may say in secondary groups, there may not be interaction. No, it's not like that. Even in secondary groups, also some kind of interaction will be there. What are these secondary groups? Please give me a minute or two, then we'll go to the typology of our groups. Then third characteristic is a kind of awareness, which should be a kind of natural awareness. It is not, let us say in a classroom is a group, no doubt, but if teacher asks you to do something or talk to some other person, then it is not a natural awareness. But when you are sitting in a class along with other students, whether it is virtual, offline or online, whatever it is, you are aware of what other students are doing, what your teacher is doing, right? Naturally, the moment you come to a particular place, in order to do some activity, need not be classroom simply I have taken as an example. Any activity, we take any activity. Let us say you are going to, let us say, religious prayer place. There are many people in your prayer place, but all of you are concentrating on only one activity, that is praying God or doing meditation, etc., etc. You know pretty well that your next member also is doing the same. So it is known as a kind of natural awareness, which should be there in a group. Then another characteristic is by being member in a particular group, we feel that we belong to that group. This feeling is known as we feeling. We are all one. You usually take this day in, day out, or every minute or every second, you can say. How? This is my family. These are my friends. This area is my area. This is my interest. All those persons who are having similar interests are my friends, are my people. So this, me, my, all these words which we use in our everyday conversation show that we are having a kind of feeling, quote unquote, we feeling. And at the same time, this is one of the major characteristics of the group. At the same time, we also differentiate ourselves with others. They are not from this area. They are not from my family. They are not my friends. Or they work in some other place. So here, what we are doing, we is one group and they is another group. In fact, Sumner has given one typology, in group and out group. In group means where we are having we feeling, whom we consider as our group members. And out group means whom we do not consider as our group members. They are different. In many cases, it leads to ethnocentric views also, but we are not going into that particular aspect now. We'll be talking about only the conceptual level. Then another characteristic is group is always based upon unity and solidarity. Without unity and solidarity, there cannot be any group. There may be an association. Please try to understand this. Say, for instance, you have joined in a Rotary Club. Let us take an example. Rotary Club is an association because in order to fulfill certain common interests which we have, some persons establish this Rotary Club and we may become a member in that Rotary Club. All members of Rotary Club consider themselves as members of Rotary Club, but we cannot assure that there is unity among us, all these persons. Here, why I'm using this word is because the depth of seriousness of unity only I'm taking into consideration. They may be doing other activities which probably are diagonally opposite to the aims and objectives of Rotary Club. But can we have this type of situation in a family? Family is a primary group. If that happens, what happens to the family? Immediately, disorganization occurs. Family relationships will break. A kind of breakdown happens in a family. What about your friends? Will there be any unity or solidarity amongst friends? Our answer will be in affirmative. Yes, there will be. All my students or all my members, all my colleagues, we belong to a particular group. That group is known as, that may be a primary group or secondary group, but we are having a kind of unity and solidarity. How this unity and solidarity comes? There is another characteristic of a group, that is common interest. We are all having common ideas, common feelings, common beliefs, common needs. And all these needs, beliefs, etc., we call them as interests in social sciences. Need not be only sociology, in social sciences. And members of a group will be working for
Ma'am, can you repeat the word?
Beg pardon?
Can you repeat the word, madam?
Interest.
Okay.
Common interests.
Okay, thanks, madam.
Right. Then with these common interests, then what happens? We come across similar behavior in a group. All members of a group will be thinking, feeling, behaving in a similar way. How? You please try to remember what you did today morning. I know it looks funny, but you please try to do that. What do you do today morning after getting up? Probably you might have brushed your teeth, right? Probably you might have had your early morning cup of tea or coffee or milk, whatever it is. Or probably some of you, those who are working, then you might have gone to your office, right? One sec. But while doing this, have you observed any similarity in the behavior of your family members? Sometimes every day in, day out, it is happening. Every day morning you are having your breakfast or having your cup of tea. Somebody probably is preparing it. That may be your mother or your father or your brother or sister or wife. Don't you think a kind of similar behavior every day you are having within family? Let me give another example. Let me take one example. Once upon a time, of course, now metros and all those things have come. But once upon a time, people used to have public transport, that is buses, APSRTC at the time. Now TSRTC, buses we used to use. If you are going to your school or college or office, every day you will be boarding a particular bus at a particular place, right? After a day or two, persons who are traveling along with you will become your friends. What do you do every day when you see your friends? You'll be having a smile on your face and you'll be saying hi or hello, how are you? So a kind of greeting will be there. So is there any similarity here? Not only you, even others also are doing. So such type of, I have given only reductionist, very simplest examples, but in all groups we usually come across such type of similar behavior. And this behavior will be there all over the world. If you see your friend having a smile on your face is not limited to only our country. This is a kind of behavioral pattern all over the world. Similarly, having division of labor in your family is not limited to only your area. All over the world, we come across in a family. So this type of behavior also is another characteristic of social groups. Now, one more characteristic also we have to take into consideration, that is the dynamics as well as stability of groups. Groups, please mute the
Madam, sound is not clear, madam.
Otherwise, my voice will not be. Hello?
Ma'am, someone unmute their device, so we can't hear you properly.
Ma'am, disturbing for all.
Yeah, myself I'm doing mute. Otherwise, I mean, by mistake properly. Govardhan Raji, please mute your this thing. Similarly, Pallavi. These two persons, I could not do it, and others have done that. Okay. Now, stability and dynamics of group. Groups are always dynamic. They will be changing. Why? The reason is very simple. Because common interests will be varying from one time to other one society to other one. Because our common interests are not alike. We are having a variety of interests. So the more diversity in our interests, diversity in our needs, obviously, groups also will be changing. Once upon a time, long ago, let me use that word, education was in such a way where teacher used to sit under a big tree and students also used to sit there and learn mostly oral, learning by rote. That is known as oral tradition was there. The present situation of teaching is not like that. A variety of methods we are following. If you are a small kid of 2.5 years also, probably you will be learning by rote, oral tradition you will be following. But the moment you come to your first class or second class, you are no longer doing that. You will be giving more importance to the writing part. Here, education institution is an institution, school is a group, classroom is a primary group, friends is another primary group. Learning, of course, is a common interest, but how and what we are learning is changing. Hence, groups are dynamic. But at the same time, various group norms establish the stability in a group. We usually, I think those who are working probably, or those who have attended some personality development classes probably might have heard about teamwork. In teamwork, we usually say there are certain stages. It is the duty of the team leader to mingle with all persons of his team. That is stage 1, saying hello, establishing friendship. That may take few hours or few minutes. Immediately what he has to do is he has to establish certain group norms. These group norms will be there till they continue as a group, even beyond that also. This shows what a kind of stability. Let me take a very simple example. For instance, if, let us say, voters are there. Voters group is a group. It may be an association also. Within association, we come across many groups. Here, one particular group follows certain methods. It accepts certain symbols or some kind of, what can I say, replicas of certain things. Here, taking something as a symbol or taking something as very important element of that group loyalty continues. Why? Because it is established as a group norm. If somebody violates that, group controls those persons. It will not accept any violation. Hence, group is not only dynamic, but also it is stable. It is static also. These are characteristics of social groups. Is this clear so far? May I proceed to the typology or classifications of group? I hope this is clear to you all.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Let me proceed to the typology or different types of groups, social groups, right? Now, if you refer your book for typology, many types of groups are given. 5.5, page number 70. If you are having your book, you please go to 5.5 or page number 70, right? Social groups, the classification of social groups was given by more or less each and every social scientist or sociologist. And what parameter or criterion is taken into consideration in order to give this typology? Rationality is one such parameter. What is meant by rationality? Rationality is nothing but what we are doing, particularly sensible actions. Sensible in the sense what? Whatever goals we are having, whatever we are doing, that should be in tune with, in synchronization with goals of our group. What is a goal of a particular group? Each group defines its goal. Let me take primary groups as an example. Friendship group is a primary group. You and your friends are having one goal, that is establishing friendship. That means helping each other, providing security to your friend, in turn taking security from your friend. These are all your goals, right? How to understand rationality of your behavior? Whatever behavior you are exhibiting will be understood, will be analyzed in terms of your group's goals. Accordingly, this is one of the parameters. Accordingly, each and every sociologist try to describe and define various types of groups. In this context, we'll be studying in detail certain classifications. Let me start with Charles Cooley. He divided groups into two groups. Let me use the word once again. Primary group and secondary group. He says, wherever we are having informal relations, wherever we are having face-to-face relationships, such groups are primary groups. Where formal relations are there, where face-to-face relationships are not there, then that group is a secondary group. I think if we take some example, it will be easier for you to understand. Family, friends, neighbors, where we never follow any list of rules and regulations to talk to them or share our feelings with them or share their feelings. We never follow any rules and regulations. We never do. Just like school children greet their teacher, and the moment teacher enters into the class, they'll be saying, "Good morning, teacher." No, we never follow this, right? So that is known as informality, and they can see each other. Why? What is the significance of this each other? Share. What is it you are asking? Share your. I'm sorry, it went off. I think one student asked for this. Share your screen. Today I'm not using any PowerPoint presentation. Hence I'm not using any because I am following your book in toto. Why? I know you are going to ask this because you will be reading this book and learning points. That is the reason I thought it is better to follow your book. You please refer your book only. Page number, I have already mentioned, page number 70. Right? We are talking about typologies of groups. And to be precise, characteristics of primary group, you are having in page number 71. Formal relations, face-to-face relationships. In your book, altogether, some 15 characteristics are mentioned and functions also are mentioned. I am talking about this only. Say, for instance, third characteristic is face-to-face relationship in your book. Then next, yeah, tell me.
No, books are not there, ma'am.
Amma?
Books are not there, ma'am.
Okay, sorry. I'm sorry, I could not.
Ma'am.
Amma, we are discussing
Books are
about.
not there, ma'am.
You please put it in the chat, ma, so that I'll be able to.
ఆమె దగ్గర books లేవంట మ్యామ్.
She is not having books. Okay. Then you please note down. That is the reason I am going in a very slow way, right? It is better if you have a paper and pen with you. See, we are talking about the characteristics of primary groups. Are you able to understand this? This classification is given by Charles H. Cooley. He divided groups into primary groups and secondary groups. Primary group characteristics include informal relations. So please make a note of it, where we will not be having any written rules and regulations in order to talk to other members or befriend with other members, right? Then the second one is face-to-face relationship. Each member will be able to see the other person, and their relationships are very informal. Take an example of family. Family is an example for primary group, family, friends. Every day in, day out, you are seeing your family members, right? Even if they are residing at some other place, what do? If you would like to talk to your family member, you simply on your smartphone and you will be talking to them. That means you are not missing them physically, right? Similarly, when people from, particularly members of primary group, talk to each other or maintain their friendliness and all that, the solidarity amongst them is very, very thick and very firm and strong. For instance, if something happens to our family members, what do we usually do? Let us say our family member is having 100 degrees Fahrenheit temperature. Immediately we will rush to a doctor or take that person to a doctor or a hospital, and will be doing whatever we could do in order to regain health for that particular person. So these are characteristics of primary group. In a secondary group, the members' strength is very high. The size of the group is very big. Sometimes in a secondary group, it may be thousands or lakhs of people also. Let us take a simplest example. You are all students of Open University. In your class itself, there may be more than 1,000 students, right? When we talk about students of undergraduate course, first year, who opted for sociology, then we are talking about a secondary group. All of you are not having informal or face-to-face relations. But among these students, there we may come across primary groups also. My friends, we usually say, with pride and all that. So that is a primary group. So what are the characteristics of a secondary group? Informal relations may not be there. Mostly formal relations. Let us say hi-bye relationship, we usually use a slang word there. We will not come across face-to-face relationships. Group solidarity also will be less compared to primary group, right? This is one classification given by Charles Cooley, but there are other classifications also. Before going into these other classifications, I have received so many inquiries. And one request I would like to say, while the class is going on, it is better if you concentrate on that, because some of this conversation is linked with whether you have received the books or not. Even in the last session also, we had this discussion. You can go to the university, get them. Even otherwise, they'll be sending them to your house addresses. Okay? You please contact the Student Services Division. Now, let's go back to our typology. Dwight Sanderson, I'm still at page number 70 only. Those who have received books, please see. Those who have not received, please make a note of this particular classification. Sanderson, it is spelled as Sanderson. Sanderson classified groups into 3 major types. And he has taken the structure of a group into consideration. And what are these basis for structure. Sometimes we involuntarily become members of a group, right? Sometimes we ourselves will become a member in a group. That group is known as voluntary group. And we also have delegate groups, right? The area where we take birth or the family in which we are born or the clan in which we are members because we are born into a family. There, all these groups are involuntary groups. Your ideas, your wish or desire is immaterial there. Without your nod, you have taken birth in a family, and by taking a birth in a family, you have become member in a community or tribe or clan, etc. But when a person joins in a particular institute, like you people have joined at Ambedkar Open University to study a course, undergraduate course. Here, voluntarily, you are becoming a member in that particular group. Sanderson classifies these groups as voluntary groups, right? If a person joins in a voluntary group, he can come out of that group whenever he wants to. But in involuntary group, it is not possible. The moment you enter into that group, you have to continue in that group forever. Nobody will allow you to come out of that group. Then what is a delegate group? Whatever free will or rights we are having, we usually delegate all these rights to a particular person. For instance, when we vote, when we cast our vote to a political representative, what we are doing? We are delegating our authority to a parliamentarian or to a member of legislative assembly. So parliament or assembly, these are delegate groups. How they have come to existence, that is basis of structure. On this particular criterion, Sanderson divides groups into three groups. Sorokin, another American sociologist, he has divided groups into two major categories: vertical groups and horizontal groups. What is meant by vertical group? Where we come across different stages or different strata, right? Horizontal group, we will not come across differences in status or strata. Let me take a simplest example. Let me take our country as example. In our country, we are having so many states, so many cities or villages, etc. All these are hierarchically placed, or all these are having different status. Why? I think when you read your, let us say, general knowledge or newspaper, etc., some of the states are termed as Bimaru states, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, etc. So compared to, let us say, certain other states, their status is lower. Similarly, where we come across 100% literacy, immediately we will be saying Kerala. That means other states are not having 100% literacy. So status differences are there. Hence, our country, for that matter, all nations are vertical groups, right? But when we talk about, let's say, class, be undergraduate students, first year students, your own group, there are no status differences at all. Hence, it is a horizontal group. One more classification also is there. Franklin H. Giddings has given this classification. He classifies groups into two categories: genetic groups and congregates. What is meant by genetic group? Where a person born involuntarily, then that is a genetic group. That may be your race or family or area, etc. But in case of congregate group, voluntariness is a characteristic. Voluntarily, a person becomes a member. Say, for instance, All India TV Viewers Club. Let us say this group is there. It's an association and also group. If a member joins in this, then what he is doing, he is entering into a group, namely congregate. Or some meditation center is there. A person voluntarily goes there and meditates. There he is becoming a member of that meditation, people who are doing meditation, or a congregate. Another classification is given by George Hassan. He divided groups into 4 categories. And the criterion which he has taken into consideration is how these groups are related to each other with other groups, right? What are they? He says unsocial groups is one category, pseudo-social groups is another category, anti-social groups are another category, and pro-social groups are another category. What is meant by unsocial? This group lives only for itself. It will not bother about other people, other groups, or any other matter. And many times they will not participate in the larger society or mainstream activities. Then when we come to pseudo-social, people will be there, but they will not participate in all activities unless activities in which they are participating can give some kind of profit to them. So they are showing that they are very social, but they are not really social. That is the reason that the word pseudo is used. Then the third one is anti-social groups. Anti-social group is such group which is against the society, mainstream society. For instance, Naxalites or terrorists. Such groups we usually talk about while describing what is happening in our society. So here, if they are not convinced with what is happening in a society, they usually go towards a particular theoretical perspective, and they may become members in that. So it is a kind of, as per the laws, legislations, and policy, this group will be considered as antisocial group. Similarly, let us say thieves or people who deceive others, all these groups are antisocial. Persons who are working along with the mainstream, persons who are having social relationships with all other members, then that social group is known as pro-social group, as per the classification given by George Hassan. I'm still in page number 70 because I was talking about classification of various social groups. The second, next part, that is Cooley's classification of primary and secondary groups, we have discussed already. Hence, I am skipping some of the pages. This is meant for those who are having books. Then I am going to page number 76. Right? Here we are going to talk about certain concepts. German concepts, they are Gemeinschaft and Gesellschaft. Ferdinand Tönnies has given these two terms and he has explained primary and secondary groups by using Gemeinschaft and Gesellschaft. In fact, it is not, he is not talking about only groups, but he is talking about what type of social relationships we'll have in our society, right? What is meant by Gemeinschaft, where we come across informal relations, face-to-face relationships, etc. And usually, this word will be used to describe a community. Gesellschaft, where we will be having secondary relationships. Hence, in order to describe society, we usually use this word Gesellschaft. Either typology of groups is formal and informal groups. We have already discussed about formal rules and regulations or formal organizational principles. Say, for instance, if you are member in a political party or a business firm, or if you are working in a government office, or if you are working in a hospital, all these are established on the basis of certain written rules and regulations. Hence, all these are known as formal organizations and formal groups. Friends, neighbors, or family members, or persons who are subscribing a particular religion, there you will not come across some kind of written rules and regulations. And such groups are termed as informal groups. Sumner's classification we have already discussed: in groups and out groups. People having we feeling are termed as in group, and people who consider others as they, and that group is known as they group or out group. We are having another word also which we have to remember in this context. The reason is when we study about social class, mobility and all that, we'll be using this word. In fact, Robert K. Merton did a lot of research on this. That is a reference group. Here, let me once again go back to the characteristic. Group membership, particularly in some groups, it is voluntary, and in some groups, it is involuntary. Sometimes even this involuntary membership also we try to change. How? Imagine a situation. Imagine for a minute that you are planning to migrate to the United States of America. You know pretty well that their culture is different. Language which they use is different. Food habits are different. Work situation also is different. What do? Before going to the United States of America, you usually learn all these aspects so that a member in a particular group, but your reference group is entirely different. Your model is different, and you are grooming yourself to become a member in that particular group. So in social mobility, we'll be giving a lot of importance to this. So this is about groups, their definition, and their typologies. Of course, groups are very important, just like society, because without groups, we cannot live at all. Imagine for a minute that you are not having any family, you are not having any friends, or you are not having any neighbors. McKeever clearly says, if you are not having any groups or any group membership, if you are living in isolation, either you must be an insane person or you must be a yogi, a sannyasi, or a person who has renunciated everything. But we never come across people like that. Even sannyasis also are having so many groups, and they have established so many formal organizations. You take the example of Swami Nityananda. He went and started residing in an island, and he claims that he is the Raja, king of that particular island. He has established a formal organization, namely state. In other words, what I'm planning to say is an individual cannot survive without membership in a group. Our next even these concepts also will be using in sociology as basic concepts. Now, we are having hardly, I think, 6 minutes or so. Now, you please tell me, shall I at least talk about social structure and its definitions, or if you are having any doubts, then I am ready to discuss about them. The choice is yours. Hello? Do you have any doubts? So far we saw what is a social group, typology of social groups and all that, right?
Gemini shifts means what, madam?
Beg pardon?
Gemini shift.
Gemini shift, okay. Gemini shift is characterized by informal relations like we have in our family, face-to-face relationships, and very deep interaction between the persons. These words are from German language. They describe a community, not exactly group. If you are living at a particular place, I think in our last class also we talked about that. We usually say, I belong to so-and-so place. And we own that, the concept of the place. And we always give a lot of emphasis to various aspects of that particular place. If somebody asks me, I am from Hyderabad and our Hyderabad is very great in these aspects, I usually say, so here what is happening? I am identifying myself with my community. If such relations are there, then that is known as Gemeinschaft by Ferdinand Tönnies. And Gesellschaft will not have this much deeper relationships.
Madam, rationalized group.
Amma?
Rationalized group.
Whether whatever we are doing is in synchronization with our group goals or not, right? That is a rationality.
And reference group, ma'am.
Yeah, I'm coming to that only. I have seen Manogna, anticipatory means, right? Group membership is more or less permanent. I'm not saying it is completely permanent, right? More or less permanent. The reason is you can also go and become a member in another group. If you are anticipating or thinking that, okay, let me go and become a member in that particular group, then that behavior is anticipatory. మీరు ఎదురు చూస్తున్నారు దానికోసం. యాంటిసిపేటరీ అంటే ఎదురు చూడడం. When you are trying to do that, you will be taking one group, right? That group will become your reference. You are a member in a particular group, but you will not take your group as an ideal group. You would like to change yourself so that you can become a member in another group. That is the reason I have given that example of migrating to the United States of America. American group isn't, Americans are different from Indians, right? Say, for instance, you will not be probably, if you belong to a particular community where every day you have to do so many activities only for the purpose of your family, like cooking, washing clothes, etc., etc., etc. You usually think that if I go to America, these activities may not be there. I can use some kind of, let us say, mechanical devices and all. What is it you are doing? You are anticipating to become a member in that group. And here itself, you are taking all that information to cope with, to learn how to be a member in that particular group. I think why I have taken this example is because here, a married woman in India, a married woman is expected to put bindi on her forehead or have mantik on her forehead or sindoor in her forehead. Like that, each community is having some kind of, what can I say, symbols to show the marital status of a woman. But when you go to the United States of America, many a times persons who advise us how to behave and all that, they usually advise us not to have bindi on your forehead. The reason is there you are having a particular type of situation, racism or group clashes are there. If people come to know that you belong to a particular group, then there is a possibility that those people may attack you. So in order to avoid that situation, we'll be advised not to put bindi on our forehead. So it is a behavior. When you adopt this behavior here itself, thinking that you are going to be a member in that society, then that is known as anticipatory, and that behavior, that group is known as reference group. And coming to Divya, she is asking for recruitment. Whenever you are taking a person into consideration and asking that person to do some activities, assigning some activities, that is known as recruitment. And in some of the groups, recruitment is a crucial point. For instance, if you want to join in a government office, let's say, you must be recruited. You must be given a job in that particular office, right? So how are you going to be recruited there? You may be asked to write some examination, or you may be asked to attend an interview, or you may be asked to do certain activities and bring a certificate. These are all various methods to recruit a person. And I am seeing other question from Latta. Important questions. I am a little bit skeptical about this because your examiner will be giving questions from each and every chapter, right? When examiner is giving questions from each and every chapter, then how to say this is very important, this is not very important, right? So please try to read all the units. And in the last class, we are having some 16 or 12 classes, right? So in the last class, whatever I feel important, I'll be discussing with you all. I think it is not yet time to talk about important questions and all that. So any other doubts?
Madam, can you explain about rationalized group?
No, just now I talked about it. No, ma.
Please, madam,
Rationalization means, I mean, the groups where groups, ideals or group goals will be there. Whether we are persons are working as per the goals or not. That is a criterion in order to classify groups into rational groups. And some of the groups, for instance, let us say you have joined in an office, let us say. So that office is having some kind of aims and objectives. Some kind of work will be assigned to you. So that is a rational group because formally in writing, it is saying these are my aims and these are my objectives. So such groups are known as rational groups, not rationalized groups. Sometimes some of the activities will become rationalized. Though at the beginning they are considered as not based upon any group goals and all that, after some time, those goals may become good or acceptable goals. And that process is known as rationalization. Let me give a simplest example. John Lemart, one sociologist, used one word, neutralization of criminal activities. At the beginning, we usually say some kind of criminal activities are good for nothing activities, that person should be punished and all this. And let us say a person is committing theft. What do we usually do? We call that particular person as a thief and we'll be trying to control that particular person. But a syndicate, if it is committing some kind of, let us say, crimes, like committing thefts or misappropriating property or threatening people, then what happens? People will not talk anything about that criminal syndicate. It accepts, I mean, the society accepts, though it is a criminal activity. We know pretty well that that activity is a criminal activity, but despite that, we will not say anything. Here, what is happening? We are rationalizing that behavior. We are rationalizing means we are saying that is proper, that is correct, right? So that process is known as rationalization. You do one thing, please go through. Still, if you are having any doubts, in our next class, we'll see. Okay?
Okay,
So,
ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Welcome. Shall we stop it here?
Okay, ma'am.
Congregate meaning, congregate means, Divya is asking this.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Congregate means
Thank you,
where
ma'am.
people come together, assemble and act as a group. For instance, persons who are going to a prayer place in order to pray, or persons who are going to a meeting, then that is congregate. There, your primary groups will not be there. So, I stop it here and let us meet in our next class. Okay? And thank you very much to all for patiently hearing. And on top of that, I appreciate each and every person because all of you are seriously participating in the discussion. I'm really very happy. Okay, then see you. Take care.
Bye, ma'am.
Bye, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Yeah.